turn of the 21st century will forever be remembered as the plunge into the seemingly endless sea of instant and constant capturing and sharing of every single moment with everyone, everywhere. But how do you go back and share the pictures and movies of what was never caught on film? How do you capture into a digital frame what is no longer there? How do you convey the beauty of a people, of a place now gone?
When the goddess leaves you again, and she will make your way back to your ship and mine, waiting still. Dry your anchors, men of wars, and row, row, row.
This is the first recording of Origins of Originative. The tracking there, the time at the studio, the opening of the studio, the stories that were surrounding my coming together with Mr. Carl Bringle to fashion the incredible project of building community within a world and a society that really, really pushes the impossibility of that. I don't know that either Carl nor myself understood the gravity of what we were getting into, but when I think about tracing all of this back to perhaps the first written account of it, was in a list of 101 things that I wanted to do before I die. That a young apprentice of mine, a young employee of mine at a coffee shop that I was running in Idaho Springs, Colorado, Julie North, had introduced me to this challenge. And when she told me all of the reasons that she was doing it, I thought it might be an interesting exercise. Number 16 on that list is opening my own alternative school.
We had finally drawn up a great schoolhouse. It was called a Santa Sophia Schoolhouse Proposal. And I went in already for a board meeting. Top-notch educators of the Spice. They had started a school. Love them dearly. But there are some funny things in life. None of them were ready for this 12-page document that broke down every single aspect of
course, the things that they were expecting along the lines of language, but nutritional changes that the school needed to make. So, I remember being very excited going into this thing, as youth should be when they feel something in their heart, something they're passionate about. And the board listened to me attentively, as they always have for the first 10 minutes or so. And then, one by one, they started to doze off into a deep sleep. Now this is way back when I didn't have much of a relationship with story or dream. All of this was just coming. Or else I would have said, wow, this is really magical. I've slipped them into that unconscious place where all great things come from. But then I was, I just carried on. In my presentation, there were a few eyelids still open, and I just considered that the way it would be. When I was done, they were all asleep. So I quickly pounded on the table a little bit. They all started waking up. And I'll never forget the president of the board's words after waking up. He was the first to go to sleep. First one up. And he spoke, of course. He said, son, Carlitos, every time you open your mouth, I am more amazed. Well, everybody, meeting adjourned. Everybody started to wake up and get their bags and stuff ready and took off. I came out. Seemed like I rode my bike over to see Ron. He's like, so how did it go? We had big intentions to no concept at the time of starting our own place. We were thinking, work out a space that's at the Sophia where all of this could live. And that wasn't meant to be. I didn't know it at the time. And we had our eyes on this little building that just felt like, instead of, like we could pull all of the school out into this haven we would create, for learning in a different way compared to the insanity happening in classrooms and testing and all this. But that never came to be, not like that. Ron asked me, so how did it go? I think it went really well. I told him the words the president had said. And anyway, the weeks went by and I didn't hear anything. 3 weeks in, I decided to approach one of the board of directors and asked them about that proposal. Not surprisingly, couldn't quite remember what I was talking about. Needless to say, we regrouped and decided it was time to tear off our diapers and start walking like toddlers into the world of setting up our own school.
The first time I met Carl, he met me wearing a white t-shirt and a beanie hat and jeans and Converse, ratty Converse. and there was a certain togetherness to him that contrasted my showing up in slacks, a dress shirt and tie, in the god awful heat of Esparza, Costa Rica. As I'm sweating like mad trying meeting this guy. He's tattooed up. He's got these tattoo sleeves and I could tell very quickly that that we spoke, that we could speak the same language here, and yet it took some time for the both of us to really begin to investigate each other in a way that could lead to where it did. And that has to do with a lot of a lot of past experiences that Carl had with gringos, and the fact that my being in Costa Rica was not it was a learning opportunity, more than it was a form of escape. Although there was undoubtedly that aspect, but decidedly very different, because I had a family than the typical expat working traveler, trying to see the world and on a shoestring. So after several nights of poker with gringos and trying desperately to pick up Spanish around a gambling extravaganza over beers on the weekend, and it was Carl would occasionally come into the teacher's lounge and have and ask me a question about, or we'd get in a conversation about education, and I was sort of desperate to talk to anyone about education, after having had that as a passion that I wanted to explore, but not within a traditional track. Those conversations led to an agreement to meet in the early morning prior to some extracurricular classes that we were teaching on Saturdays, and we began to meet earlier and earlier. We met a half an hour earlier each week, so that eventually we would meet the entire night long. And the subject was, how do we really build an educational environment that made sense and that was relevant to the youth that we were mentoring. It wasn't based on on propaganda.
The 4 a.m.s. Anyone who's heard these tales around a warm fire, the way you're supposed to hear about these things, these origins, where it all got started, has definitely heard about the 4 a.m.s. They are the trademark for what is now the conversation that never ends. I had no idea back then. The way I remember them getting started was I used to go for questions during recess and kind of, finally get what I wasn't getting at the local university, but in short segments interrupted, oddly enough, by school bells. that Ken Robinson, through material Ron would push me through, made very clear were unnecessary in school environments. Here, two teachers were surrounded by kids, figuring out this whole thing on education and development, and being interrupted by school bells. And so then it was lunch times, and it grew into coming into school early, brewing some coffee with Don Roman. And he'd always think the two crazy gringos, it would move to 6, 5:30, 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning. We couldn't get to school at 4 in the morning because the guard was always startled. And it was just kind of disrupting his, I don't know, nodding routine. So I remember crawling out of bed, driving my wife nuts, getting on my banana bike, and riding, I'm a 1.5 kilometers through the dark across this Pan American highway over to Ron's house and knocking on his door. And he would kind of get out of bed, and really all of us were really like, you know, both spouses and Ron and I, like, is this really happening? And it was, and there was just such richness, and we didn't know where we were going, but we were just caught up in the dreaming and the planning and especially on my end, the learning, and Ron wanting to find someone that could help him carry the vision far bigger than him and far bigger than the two of us, that's for sure. But yeah, those 4 a.m.s are at the very beginning of the conversation that never ends.
I know a guy who lives just for the weekends. He says he's tired a lot. Says it should be 5 days a weekend instead of 5 days of work. I remind him we get old and retire, too old to do anything but golf. When you're young, you're in school or in the workforce. Let's make old people work, that's a joke. We got a job to do, and this is it. We got a job to do, and this is it. We got a job to do,
Yeah,
and this is it.
I remember receiving a resume for an overly qualified candidate for an ESL teaching job. Miss Sparsa. 2 master's degree in poetics, literature, and then all of the other wonders I would discover in him as our relationship grew. But at the time, the resume, his articulation in the meeting, and his outfit. Now, that was a strapping, tall stud ready for the job. Except he was over sweating. Button-up shirt, tie, slacks. Yeah, hard to forget. I was kind enough to let him know what would take me, because I came in the same way for my first day of teaching. But it's not neediness, Sparsa. Everything's pura vida. So I told him right off, you know, when you come in on Monday, make sure to dress the part. And he did. He wore shorts from then on out.
The first job I liked. The first job that I felt like allowed me to have a deep and meaningful relationship with the community around me. The first place that I really understood that there was a community that was probably bigger than me, my high school friends, and the small world of suburbia was actually a coffee shop, as cliche as it might sound. So I not only learned to craft, I learned about people. I had to learn about a bunch of people that I didn't necessarily choose to interact with, but I fell in love with the aspect and the possibility of community, of a bunch of unlikely people that had this one thing in common. This space that was based on creation. We brewed the coffee every morning. We created products for people. And they were signature. It was everything differentiated for each customer. So much so that, like a bar, you know a person's drink. And when you know a person's drink, you know something interesting about them. You don't know everything about them, but you know something interesting. You start to know people's stories. You know them through this very one intimate lens. Now, my love for coffee grew into a love for all the people that worked with me and that I served, and it conjured in me a longing for that community to be established on a much broader platform than simply coffee. How do we rely on each other for more than that? When we're sitting together, sharing a cup of coffee, or sitting down sharing a great meal, or a couple drinks in the evening, or a nice veranda in the sunset, we have these moments where we feel like we can, we have the time to get to know each other a little bit more.
3, 4. You were the one to say I sing too loud, to crowds too proud to hear the sound, the subtle whispers my younger heart misunderstood. Put my foot inside the sea. Should have known the ashes. I'm older now. My heart still pounds the same. I'm less concerned now with people caring. Quicker yet to learn from you. But are you listening? When I was a young man, I bit my tongue. On the peaks of perils past our perch.
Bueno, Americanos Estudio para nosotros ha sido muy importante. Desde el principio, desde que conocimos a Carlitos y Ron, ellos nos han apoyado. Fue importante más que todo para la familia en sí, no solamente para mis hijos. Fue la enseñanza, el cuidado de la naturaleza, aprender a reciclar, de tantas cosas, un apoyo increíble. Nosotros cuando los metimos fue más que todo para que aprendieran a hablar inglés, pero realmente estamos sumamente agradecidos por todo lo que han hecho en una familia, en realidad. Es algo bellísimo, lástima que ahora no está aquí en Costa Rica.
Bueno, nosotros cuando escuchamos de Americanos Studios simplemente creímos que era una escuela para aprender inglés, entonces metimos a nuestros hijos con la idea de que ellos aprendieran a hablar inglés, pero fuera de, más que una escuela de enseñanza del inglés, fue un aprendizaje de cultura, de la misma cultura de nosotros que teníamos perdida, enseñar a respetar la naturaleza, reciclaje. Tuvieron muchas enseñanzas de esta escuela, además de la gran amistad con estos gringos locos Y,
Una familia.
y entonces, y que además de ser profesores de nuestros hijos, pasaron a ser parte de nosotros y ahora tenemos una gran amistad con ellos y ha sido muy bueno para la familia y para la comunidad fue muy bueno también con todas sus enseñanzas.
Recuerdo que estaba en un viaje con mi familia y cuando volví a mi casa, mi papá me dijo que me había matriculado en, en una academia de inglés y la verdad es que a mí no me gustó recibir esa noticia porque yo me puse a pensar, ya me imagino clases, un montón de lápices, cuadernos, el profesor, el montón de estudiantes, muchas sillas, conducta y todas esas cosas. Entonces a mí no me gustó para nada la idea de que mi papá me hubiera metido a esa clase. Después ya fui el primer día, mi papá me llevó y estaba Carlos, él estaba ahí afuera de la casa, de la academia. Y no sé, me gustó mucho su manera de desenvolverse, de hablar, una persona que le puedes dar mucha confianza. Entonces eso se me hizo muy extraño de un profesor. Y Carlos, no sé, o sea, él tiene una energía tan positiva que uno se la transmite con solo verlo. Y bueno, me enseñó la academia, cada rincón de la academia tiene su lado maravilloso, a mí me encanta, ¿verdad? Y vi que no eran sillas, cuadernos, lápices, ni nada de esas cosas, en realidad eran plantas, música, libros, pero de los libros interesantes, no los libros que están llenos de textos de inglés. Eran historias, eran tradiciones, eran muchas cosas, de hecho hasta otros idiomas. Y me gustó, me encantó. Recuerdo que una de esas salas de la academia había un piano y a mí siempre me llamó la atención ese piano. Y creo que Carlos notó que a mí siempre me llamó la atención ver ese piano. Entonces él empezó a explicarme cómo se utilizaba el piano y empezó a enseñarme y de hecho me enseñó tanto que di mi primer clase di mi primera open mic.
And I remember that it was kind of smelly that day. It was because one of Carl's dogs was there, so I believe it hasn't been bathed. No, nobody bathed him, so it was really, really smelly. Even when later on became the library, because there was air conditioning there, so a smelly dog plus air condition, it was really bad. Yeah, that's about it.
Puedo explotar mi arte en el sentido de que sé hacer un poco de circo, por llamarlo en general, lo que es entrar en monociclo, hacer malabares, y eso fue porque al principio Americanos me impulsó a poder lograr eso. Luego me enseñó que el ambiente es parte de nosotros, porque nosotros sin él no podemos hacer nada, y no sería nada más devolverle un poco de todo lo que nos ha dado, cultivando árboles, reciclando. Y de hecho en estos momentos siento que me ha impulsado a estudiar lo que estoy estudiando en estos momentos, que estudio manejo forestal y vida silvestre en la Universidad Técnica Nacional en Atenas, y tengo muchos proyectos que sé que puedo contar con la ayuda de Americanos, porque ellos siempre van a estar para mí y para toda mi familia en general, porque ellos, aparte de que fueron mis profesores, lograron ser parte de mi vida, y aunque estén kilómetros de distancia, siempre van a haber contactos y comentar ideas que para todos siempre llegar a lograr cosas mejores en mi cantón, en mi provincia, en mi país, desde donde no hayan límites.
Hi guys, my name is Alisa Aster. I'm an artist and muralist in Esparza. This is my workspace and this is my work look. I first came to Esparza thanks to Americano Studios in 2011. Well, we found out about Americano online like most other interns, I suppose. And when we first came to Costa Rica, we were looking to find some hippie communities, so that was our first impression about Americano. Well, fortunately, it wasn't quite true. It wasn't a hippie community in the classical sense of this word, but I can say that we were captured by the liberty of the spirit